My name is Iris, and I never thought I'd be the one to carry everything on my shoulders. At 27, most of my friends are still figuring out their careers or enjoying self-rewarded trips after working hard. Me? I'm just trying to manage my own life and take on the financial burden of my family at the same time. Iris, Alex's therapy bill is due today. My mother's voice came through the phone last Sunday morning, steady and familiar, like an alarm clock that won't stop ringing. I know, Mom, I said, wedging the phone between my shoulder and ear, opening my banking app as the coffee machine dripped slowly. I'm really grateful, but… She trailed off, like she'd said the same sentence so many times that even she was tired of it. I sighed and opened the banking app while still holding the phone with my shoulder. How much is it this time, Mom? The story of how we got here isn't anything dramatic, but living it? It's exhausting. Sophie, my older sister, 3 years older than me, used to be ambitious. Everything fell apart a year ago when she didn't get the promotion she expected. And instead of handling it professionally, she quit on the spot, burning every bridge behind her like setting a match to a wooden bridge. Instead of handling it professionally, she quit immediately, ruining every relationship like wildfire. Why would they choose Ashley instead of me? I still remember Sophie crying on my shoulder like a child. At that time, I had just moved into a small, old studio apartment in Silver Lake. It was tiny, but it was the first place I bought and paid for entirely on my own. I thought she would calm down after a few weeks, maybe find a better job. But it didn't happen that way. But then a month passed, then 2, then 7, and she was still there, casually applying to jobs she didn't want, rejecting every opportunity for being beneath her. And me? I paid the bills for my parents. I made sure Alex, my younger brother, saw a therapist every week. I worked at a small marketing firm in downtown LA, took on freelance projects after hours, lived on coffee and leftover snacks in the office kitchen. This therapy is really helping him a lot, my mom would say every time I transferred another chunk of my paycheck into their account. He's making progress. Progress? All I saw was money draining out of my bank account like a leak I couldn't fix. Meanwhile, Sophie was still curled up in bed, dreaming of jobs with ridiculous perks like flexible hours, 4-day work weeks, and unlimited vacation. My parents had visibly aged. New worry lines etched into Mom's face. Dad's shoulders were permanently hunched, as if he were carrying the weight of the whole family. I knew. We needed something to look forward to, something to remind us that life could still be beautiful. So I planned a trip to Santa Barbara, a vacation just for the 3 of us. Looking at how tired my parents were, I knew we all needed something good on the horizon. I spent a month researching, booking a cute boutique hotel near the beach, scheduling a vineyard tour for Dad, and a handcrafted cheese tasting class for Mom, something she always dreamed of trying, California style. I pictured the 3 of us walking cobbled streets, eating breakfast at seaside cafes, and most importantly, a few days without stress, without pressure, without bills. A cheese tasting tour for Mom. She'd always dreamed of trying authentic Italian cheese. A vineyard and wine tasting tour for Dad. He loved a good glass of red. I thought this trip would be perfect. A way for us to escape the pressure and create some happy memories. I imagined the 3 of us strolling the quaint streets of Trastevere, sharing wine in cozy cafes, and finally seeing my parents smile, genuinely, without worry shadowing their faces. But then, life changed in a single moment. One morning, while driving to a client meeting to present a pitch, my mind still wandered to our vacation plans for the next day. The next moment, a loud crash, the piercing screech of metal, Then everything went black. I don't remember much from the accident, just fragments, sirens, paramedics, echoing voices, the blinding light above me. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, dizzy, sore all over. The doctor said I'd undergone emergency surgery and wouldn't be able to leave the hospital anytime soon. "You're very lucky," the nurse said, adjusting my IV. "The airbag saved you from more serious injuries, but the other car hit you really hard." Just a few hours later, my mom walked into my hospital room, holding the beach tote bag she loved so much, the one I had bought especially for the trip. Just seeing it made my stomach sink. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my throat dry. "We'll have to postpone the trip. I'll cancel the hotel booking. Once I'm better, we'll go." I thought Mom would stroke my hair like always, tell me it was okay. But no. What happened next was something I never saw coming. "Oh, no need, sweetheart," she said, voice steady like she was just talking about replacing a water filter. I blinked, thinking the painkillers must be messing with my hearing. "What?" "Your dad and I talked," she said, adjusting the strap on her bag. "We think we should still go. You can rest here and we'll take Sophie instead." I froze. It felt like I'd been hit all over again, this time in the heart. I stared at them, waiting for someone to say it was a joke. "Sophie's had a stressful year," Mom said, gently patting her shoulder. "She needs a break too." Sophie walked in, not the slightest bit apologetic. "I was going to house sit while you two were gone," she shrugged. "Now that I can't, I guess you'll have to hire someone. Just make sure they're trustworthy." I lay there alone. The fluorescent light above cast a pale, cold glow on my face, like the world was mourning something that had died. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the last bit of trust I had left in my family. The steady beep-beep of the heart monitor continued so consistent, it felt mocking while my actual heart was anything but okay. They were gone. Really gone. No hugs, no questions, not even a backward glance. Just a few lines about check-in time at the hotel. And then they waved goodbye, as if I were the house sitter, not someone who'd just come out of surgery less than 24 hours ago, and they really left. No hesitation, no concern, no care. It was just me left, surrounded by the monotone hum of machines and a painful truth I couldn't ignore. They abandoned me, to go enjoy a vacation I had planned and paid for with my own money. I lay there for hours, eyes fixed on the ceiling, trying to make sense of what just happened. But there was no explanation that made it okay. No medicine could ease the tight, aching pain in my chest, because that pain didn't come from the stitches in my abdomen. "They didn't even ask if I was okay," I whispered. "Not about the surgery, not the accident, not a single word." A nurse passed by, glanced at the monitor, then stopped at the door, her expression concerned. "Sweetheart, are you all right? Your numbers are a little high." "My phone." I sat up, pain shooting through every muscle. "Can you get it for me?" "It should be with my stuff." A few minutes later, she returned with a plastic hospital bag. Hands trembling, I pulled out my phone, breathing a sigh of relief. It was intact. The screen lit up with a Christmas photo of my parents and me. I instantly changed it to the default wallpaper. "At least this thing survived," I muttered. I opened my email. The California trip folder popped up a carefully curated collection. Hotel confirmations, tour tickets, daily itineraries, all arranged by me, paid for by me, for my family. I stared at them, silent. "All right," I said, fingers hovering over the first email. "If they see me as their travel agent instead of their daughter, then I'll act like one." One by one, I started canceling everything. I started canceling them, First the hotel. A few clicks and that gorgeous suite with the ocean view in San Diego was gone. Next, every private tour. My mom's cheese tasting class, canceled. My dad's vineyard tour, gone. Private city tour guide, deleted. Even the evening cruise in San Francisco, canceled. I erased it all. Each cancellation brought a wave of emotion. Sadness, yes, because I had dreamed of experiencing those things with my parents, but also something else, not exactly, more like justice. They treated my accident like an inconvenience. They chose to bring Sophie, who hadn't worked in a year, on a luxury vacation, paid for by me, while I lay here in a hospital bed, alone. The last thing left to cancel was their round-trip flight. I stared at the confirmation email for a long time before hitting cancel. A small part of me, the naive one still untouched by all the disappointment, wondered, what will they do when they realize they have no way home? When it was all done, I placed the phone on the nightstand, face down, closed my eyes, took a deep breath. They would figure it out soon, maybe at the airport, maybe when they arrived at the hotel. But eventually, they'd understand what it feels like. Maybe when they arrive in California, with no hotel, no tour, no return flight, they will understand what it feels like to be left alone and have to fend for themselves. The first message came at 3:25 a.m. They had likely just landed in California and realized there was no reservation under their name. My phone buzzed gently. Despite the ache in my chest, I smiled. By breakfast, I had 15 missed calls. By noon, 40. The texts started flooding in too. I grabbed the back of a hospital menu and started taking notes. Missed calls. Mom, 25. Dad, 18. Sophie, 48. Texts, 50 plus, and climbing voicemails, 21. I smirked. Let's see what has made the whole family so panicked. When the missed calls hit 51, I finally picked up my phone, wincing from the pain. Sophie's texts were at the top. How could you be so cruel and selfish? We're standing in the hotel lobby with nowhere to go. You're unbelievably heartless. Then came messages from my mother. Iris, I'm truly disappointed in you. This is not how you treat family. We've never done anything like this to each other. I don't understand why you would do this to us. I stared at the screen. Now they wanted to talk about family? I laughed. Each laugh pulled at my stitches, but I couldn't stop. Never done anything like this to each other? Really? What about leaving your injured daughter alone in a hospital so you could enjoy a luxury vacation she paid for? My dad's messages were fewer, but just as demanding. Call me back right now. Take care of this immediately. Mom is crying. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages came in faster than I could read them. The hotel won't let us check in. Where's our tour? What do you mean the return tickets were canceled? Answer your phone, immediately. I was reading an especially venomous text from Sophie, saying I had ruined everything, when Dr. Norman walked in, his face serious. Miss Smith, your phone has been ringing nonstop for hours. This is a hospital, not a call center. We need a quiet environment for the other patients. My face flushed with embarrassment. I'm sorry, doctor, it's just that. Before I could think, I blurted everything out. The accident, the trip to California I had planned, my family's reaction, and how I'd canceled it all. The doctor listened closely, his expression growing more and more grave with every detail I shared. Then my phone rang again. My mother's name flashed on the screen. After a brief pause, Doctor. Norman picked it up. Hello, this is Dr. Norman from Memorial Hospital. I need to ask that you stop calling your daughter. She needs rest and is about to undergo a second surgery. From across the room, I could still hear my mother's furious voice blasting through the speaker. I don't care about any surgery. Put my daughter on the phone right now. She needs to fix what she's done to us. Dr. Norman's expression shifted, first shocked, then incredulous, and finally angry. Without another word, he hung up. I'll be holding on to your phone until after the surgery, he said firmly, slipping it into the pocket of his white coat. Right now, you need to focus on healing, not dealing with this. The next few days blurred by in a haze of pain and sedatives. Without my phone, I had no idea what was happening with my family in California. But honestly, that silence felt like medicine. Knock, knock. On the fourth day after surgery, Catherine from marketing peeked into my room. We brought contraband, she whispered with a sly grin. She and Nicholas from accounting had smuggled in real coffee from the cafe across the street. The next day, Sarah and Jenny from my team came with magazines and all the latest office gossip. The day after that, my cousin Marilyn, whom I hadn't seen in months, showed up with homemade soup. We've got a schedule, Sarah said, holding up a bright calendar on her iPad. Someone from the office will visit you every day. We can't let our best project manager be lonely. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly cared for. My eyes stung as tears welled up. You guys didn't have to do this. Oh, come on, Jenny waved it off. After all the times you've helped us, this is nothing. Even my boss, Mr. Richard, called the hospital directly to check on me. Over the next few days, I started to see clearly who actually cared, and who only saw me as a walking wallet. Mr. Richard, usually stern and all business, was the first to ensure I was properly taken care of. Iris, don't worry about a thing, he said over the phone, his voice warmer than I'd ever heard. The accident happened during work hours, so the company's insurance will cover everything. You'll get a solid compensation package to help you recover, and then some. On the fifth day without my phone, Doctor. Norman returned and placed it on the nightstand. I think you're strong enough to handle this now, he said gently, but I'd also understand if you'd rather keep it off a little longer. I picked it up with slightly trembling hands. 125 missed calls, hundreds of texts, dozens of voicemails. I started reading from the beginning, quietly tracking the shift in tone. First came the pleading. Iris, you have to understand. We're family. We can work through anything. Then the guilt-tripping. How could you embarrass us like this? We don't deserve to be treated this way. You two dare do this to us? And finally, the rage. You wouldn't believe the dump we're in now. There are bed bugs. Dad's sleeping on a creaky fold-out. We hear gunshots every night. Sophie wrote. Mom's messages were equally theatrical. We're eating street food like homeless people, haven't even gone sightseeing. Is this what you wanted? To see your parents suffer like this? The latest message was a demand to buy them tickets back home, accompanied by a barrage of threats if I didn't make things right immediately. I sighed and flipped the phone face down, just as there was a knock at the door. Lisa from HR walked in, holding a deck of cards and a bag of cookies. Ready to learn poker? She asked with a mischievous grin. I looked at her, then back at the silent phone on the table, and I made my choice. I turned it off. Deal me in. For the first time in forever, I felt like I was getting myself back. It was actually a pretty good day until they barged in. My physical therapy session had just ended. I still remembered the pride I felt walking a few steps unassisted. My chest still ached, but my heart felt light. Then I heard the sound of suitcase wheels clattering down the hospital corridor. The noise echoed like a warning in the still hallway. Seconds later, The door burst open so violently it nearly came off its hinges. "How dare you!" My mother's voice pierced the air, high and furious. She was still in her travel clothes, silk designer scarf fluttering behind her like a storm signal. "You dare do this to us!" Right behind her was Sophie, dragging a shimmery pink suitcase, the very one I gave her last Christmas. She looked at me like I was America's most wanted criminal. Dad stood in the back, half in, half out of the room. He didn't say anything, just looked down, angry, maybe, or ashamed. I wasn't sure. Nurse Lily, who had just adjusted my IV line, immediately stepped in between me and them. Her voice was icy. "Please keep it down. This is a hospital, not a circus." But they didn't care. 3 weeks of pent-up fury erupted from Sophie. "She's here." Sophie gestured wildly to my private hospital room. "Lying on clean white sheets, getting 3 meals a day, being pampered by doctors, while we're out there?" I just looked at her, not answering. I was tired. I had had enough. And I started to realize I didn't owe them a single explanation. "Do you know where we had to stay?" Sophie screamed. "A filthy motel on the outskirts of California. There were bed bugs. Dad had to sleep on a folding bed like in prison. One night, we even got robbed. And you're lying here like a hospital queen?" I scoffed. "I used to think family was where you'd find comfort after an accident," I said calmly. "Turns out, family is who abandons you to go on vacation with your money." My mother's eyes widened. "That's not fair." "Not fair?" I cut her off, my voice rising for the first time. "What's not fair is lying alone in a hospital bed less than 24 hours after surgery while my family is discussing where to eat pasta in Piazza Navona." My father stepped forward, speaking for the first time. "You could have handled this more maturely." I looked straight into his eyes. I was stabbed, rushed into surgery, and no one even cared if I lived or died. I handled this the only way someone who's been abandoned could. I protected myself. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I took a deep breath. "If you came here to make me feel guilty, you failed. Because for the first time in my life, I don't." I turned to Nurse Lily. "Could you call security for me?" Sophie shouted something. My mother started crying. My dad said nothing. "You're being cruel. We needed that trip. And look at you. You're fine now." I turned away, refusing to look at them again. I stared at her, stunned. "Fine? You think me not being able to walk without assistance is fine? You think needing a second surgery is fine? You think being abandoned, in pain, forgotten, and replaced is fine?" Nurse Lily crossed her arms, her sharp eyes focused on my mother. "I suggest you leave before I call security. This patient needs rest, not this drama." My mother looked like she might explode. Her nostrils flared, her voice shaking with rage. "We came here to talk, to fix things, but clearly you don't appreciate what we did." I let out a bitter, dry laugh. "What you did? Bedbug blankets? Street food? A tiny bed in a shady motel? Yeah, sounds like a bonding dream come true." I looked my mother dead in the eyes, unblinking. "You didn't come here for me. You came to yell, to demand I fix what you broke. But I've had enough. I'm not your guilt sponge anymore." Sophie threw her hands in the air like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So what now? You're cutting us off? Turning your back on your own family?" I sat up straighter, pain stabbing at my side, but my voice didn't waver. "You turned your back on me first. Now I'm just facing the truth." Silence fell over the room. My father looked like he wanted to say something, but Nurse Lily had already opened the door. "Visiting hours are over. Out." They left, dragging a heavy suitcase behind them. The wheels echoed down the hospital corridor like a somber goodbye. As the door clicked shut, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in weeks. My legs ached, my chest still throbbed, but something inside me felt lighter. A few minutes later, Lisa peeked into the room, her eyes wide. I heard yelling, "You okay?" I smiled. Just a small one, but real. "Yeah, actually I am." That day, I took 6 steps, on my own. No one was holding me, no one was cheering, and they were the strongest steps I've ever taken. How did I feel? Did any of you care if I was okay? Number you chose to take Sophie, the one who hasn't contributed a dime to this family for over a year, on the trip I paid for, while I was stuck in a hospital bed. I still remember watching Mom slowly stand and say the one sentence I'll never forget. "You can go to California, or anywhere you want." Her voice was icy. This might be our only chance. I didn't even have time to respond before Sophie, unapologetic, delivered the final blow. "If you were going to be disabled after the accident, you definitely would have canceled the whole thing. That's why I convinced Mom and Dad to go, since everything was already paid." The room fell completely silent. Even my mother turned to Sophie, visibly shocked. I reached for the emergency call button. A soft buzzing filled the room. "Security, please. I need 4 people escorted out of my room and added to the restricted visitors list." "Iris, don't you dare," my mom started, but it was too late. 3 security guards entered the room. "This patient is recovering from major surgery," one of them said firmly. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave immediately." I watched silently as they were escorted out. My mother's furious voice echoed down the hallway. My father stayed mute, and Sophie protested non-stop until they disappeared. The next day, I did what I should have done months ago. I blocked every single number they had. All of them. My finger lingered on my dad's contact a little longer, but in the end, his silence hurt just as much as my mother's accusations. Then I opened my banking apps. I canceled every automatic payment to the family. No more monthly therapy payments for Sophie. No more utility bills. No more groceries. No more silent aid. And I felt an unfamiliar sense of relief, as if a massive weight had been lifted off my chest. For the first time in a long while, I could take a deep breath without feeling guilty. 3 weeks later, I was discharged from the hospital. When I returned to my small apartment, it felt like stepping into a whole new world. My coworkers had cleaned everything up, placed fresh flowers on the kitchen table, filled the fridge with food, and taped a small note on the cabinet. "Welcome home." No drama, no midnight phone calls, no transfer requests, only peace. I focused on recovery. I stuck with physical therapy, worked remotely, and gradually regained my own rhythm. A life no longer centered around being the family's rescuer. But then about a month later, my phone buzzed again. It was messages from distant relatives, old friends of my parents. My mother had taken everything to Facebook. A long post, full of tears and fury. "My daughter abandoned us when we needed her the most. After everything we've done for her, she turned her back on her poor parents who are struggling. Sophie was dragged into it too. She didn't support her sister who's unemployed. The bills are piling up. Iris won't even answer our calls." Then came the comments from strangers who had no idea what was really going on. "So awful after raising such an ungrateful child. Family should always come first. I'll pray for your daughter to return to you." I was about to close the app when a new comment popped up, like an arrow slicing through the mask my mother had tried to wear. It was from my cousin Marilyn. "Aunt Brenda, are you seriously playing the victim? You left Iris alone in the hospital after her car accident to go on a vacation she paid for. You took Sophie instead of supporting your injured daughter. We all know what really happened." I sat frozen, eyes locked on the screen. Then another comment appeared, and another. More family members started to speak up. People who had known the truth, who had silently watched, now began telling the story. How I had covered the family's expenses for over a year. How the California trip had been a surprise birthday gift for my mom. How Sophie completely depended on me and refused to get a job. One aunt wrote, "I visited the hospital. The girl had no one by her side. She had to handle everything herself, while the two of you were posting photos from San Jose." 3 days later, my mother's post disappeared from Facebook. But it was too late. Screenshots had already spread across the family group chats. Old ignored messages now returned with a new weight. Their plan to paint me as the ungrateful daughter had completely crumbled. 4 months after the accident, I walked into the office. No cane. Every step was a victory. The feel of the office floor beneath my feet, solid, steady, was proof of every physio session, every drop of sweat and every tear shed in lonely days. I thought it would be a quiet day. I had prepared a soft smile, some small talk by the coffee machine. But when the elevator doors opened, I froze. The whole team was gathered around my desk. A handwritten banner hung above. "Welcome back, Iris." In the center of the room stood a 3-tiered cake, layered with chocolate and vanilla, decorated with fondant flowers and a little figurine of me, a woman standing tall, without a cane. I was nearly breathless. "You guys," I tried to speak, but my voice broke. Karine gently hugged me, and Nick started cutting the cake. "This is for you," Sarah said, handing me an envelope. I opened it and nearly dropped it. A letter from the insurance company. The compensation amount was bigger than anything I had ever imagined. Those long, endless numbers made my heart race. A new chapter had truly begun. That evening, I sat on the sofa in my quiet apartment, a slice of cake still on the plate, the soft yellow glow of the kitchen light surrounding me. I opened my laptop, not for work, but for something more beautiful, hope. I found the old hotel in California, the one I had booked for my mother, father, and Sophie. Its name popped up in the search results like a gentle reminder. I clicked in, checked availability for 4 months later. "Single room this time," I whispered, and clicked book now. No hesitation, no inner conflict. I booked every tour, cheese, wine, museums, and a private guide. Every choice was for me. No need to compromise, no waiting for anyone else. This time, everything was exactly as I wanted. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "We miss you." A call from Dad. An email from Sophie. Another bouquet arrived the next morning, expensive but meaningless. I threw it straight into the trash without opening the card. The last message came from an unknown number. "Iris, it's Mom. Please talk to us. We're still family." I didn't respond. I just deleted it and shut the phone. I pushed the laptop aside and walked to the window. Outside, the city lights shimmered like a promise. I opened my photo library. The old family pictures were still there. I looked at each one, the smiles that no longer felt real. Then, one by one, I deleted them. It was time to make new memories. Not as a daughter trying to please everyone, but as a woman learning to stand tall, walk forward, and live for herself. There's one truth I've learned. Even if late, family isn't just blood. Family is who stays when everything falls apart. It's the people who put a piece of cake on your desk and a smile on your face. Next time I walk those cobbled streets in California, I won't look back. I'll keep walking, head held high, heart light. Because this time California is mine, and so is this life.